Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show. Welcome back to another Friday Arduin review. This will be the end of the middle section of Arduin 2, I believe. This is the Black Grimoire, published in 2006, and it is mostly a spell book for all the different Arduin character classes or professions, mixed with a large, healthy dose of alchemy and herbal concoctions and herbalism and orc alchemy and things like that. But it starts off with a little bit of a history of the origins of magic in the Cthulhu, those being more or less your stereotypical ancients, the first race that developed not just magic and sorcery, but technology at basically ungodly levels. And they were able to master them so well that they were nearly indistinguishable from one another, almost like techno magic from other games, but I imagine in a much grander sense. The Cthulhu were in, from what I gather, probably a race of more or less like reptilian lizard men or dragon men or something like that, but I could be wrong on that. It could just be my own projections, because that's how I always run them, and many other game systems run them as some form of reptile, whether they be like the Slotty Toadmen or the Slan from Games Workshop, or things like that. I've always personally envisioned them as more reptilian lizard-like beings, but then they had their little war with their slaves, of course, who they started teaching magic, and who then used that magic against them. And hundreds of thousands of years later, you're in the current present day, where the Cthulhu have long ceased to exist, and the races of elves and men and dwarves and all the other races, the Franks and even the Saurig, which are, I want to say, a descendant of the Cthulhu, but incredibly, de-evolutionized, degenerate lizard men that pretty much just giant barbaric crocodile men. But a lot of fun to run. But let's get on with the different schools of magic that are in this book. It's roughly, I want to say 306 pages. Not a lot of artwork in here, but some of it is pretty decent. I'm a big fan of black and white art, and they don't disappoint when it comes to the black and white art. Maybe find something else that's really spectacular. Don't want to show you the bard picture, because everybody seems to hate bards. That's an old picture. Some of the pictures are kind of faded. They almost appear to be copies of copies of copies, or maybe that's just the art style of that particular artist. Now, here we go with the priestly magic. That's a nice family-friendly image for y'all. If you can see that, but let's get on to the other schools of magic. Now, they do things a little bit differently. With, instead of levels, they call them orders of magic. The wizard magic goes from first order all the way up to 25th, and the illusionist, which is weird, goes from 1st to 30th. And mind you, sometimes these orders only have one spell in the order, which, I'm hoping that with the new version of Arduin will be either condensed into less orders or expanded to have more spells in each order. But I'll have to talk to George later on this month and find out if that is indeed the case. Then, of course, priestly magic, druid magic, runeweaver magic, all ranging from 1st to roughly 25th level. Then the rune singer and runeweaver. Runeweavers and rune singers were some of the very first slaves taught magic by the Cthulhu, and I think it was actually the rune singers, and even though they only have 1st to 7th order magic, that were the first. but both the Weaver and Singer tend to cast their spells along the lines of the old book. Changeling from Roger Zelazny, or even, I want to say, similar also to the way they cast spells in Arduin, where they're pulling magical lines of mana and tangling them together and weaving them, unseen by normal eyes, but as that's what the finger gesticulation is them pulling the strands and tying them up in knots and, then hanging them in the air, and then, with a keyword, the spell goes off. But I could be mistaken on that, but, it's hard to say because, unfortunately, David A. Hargrave and Roger Zelazny are both no longer with us, two of the channel's favorite authors, and we plan on doing a lot more talking about those two guys as the months progress. Then there's two categories I really, really enjoy. The Demon and Dragon Magic, which are basically racial magic schools or classes of magic, more or less only usable by demons and only usable by dragons, which I absolutely love. That way the players never get a hold of, these really, really powerful magics, and they always have something to fear while they may know the name of the spell, somehow, but they'll never ever be able to utilize it and only, try desperately to protect themselves against it. Then there's something that's very unique to Arduin, which is rogue magic, and there being only 4 orders or 4 levels of rogue magic. Rogue magic is basically innate magical abilities only found within the rogue profession or class, that they can just somehow do these little tricks that, aren't necessarily all that little. They may be, the equivalent of 3rd or 4th level magics in some other games, but they just have these strange abilities that are magical in origin, and even the rogues themselves don't really know exactly how they, pull them off, but yet they do. And I could see, every once in a while it being, a novel new idea to have a character that does have the rogue magic instead of them being a split class, which is something Arduin will not be indulging in. So allowing that as a possibility for me is a fun notion. Then we go into the alchemical magic and the 13 different orders of that, along with the concoctions being all the little different, potions and powders and dusts and elixirs and oils and all the, things that you would expect to come from an alchemist shop. And they really, really go in great detail with all of these and make a lot of very useful little, creations that allow your players to have access to some magic that isn't, always the same old fireball, lightning bolt, teleport, things like that. It makes them think a little more and plan ahead how they're going to use them. For example, the different types of oils that you could spread on the ground and then lure your opponent into them. Instead of just tossing a torch and it catches on fire, which in reality isn't all that dangerous to anything but, scarecrows, because you can just hop right out of it unless you slip and fall and land in it. And even then, you have to be wearing some pretty flammable gear for it to actually catch on fire, without you being able to roll out of it or jump out of it or that sort of thing. And then, of course, there's the orc alchemy, which, again, allows your orcs, especially in the old days when orcs were, if they were lucky, 1 to 8 hit points, and that was it. They were just, just something to hack through that gives them a little bit more brain power and a little bit more of a threat level, and it allows them to be kind of crafty and able to do a lot more than just, attack in mass and hope for the best. With the Lord of the Rings movies, we really got a really nice, visual idea of how much more brutal and scary and terrifying they should be when you just, sum them up in 1 to 8 hit points, and that's pretty much it. For the rank and file, they're really not all that scary. And with this, you throw in some randomness and some unknown factors that the orcs can then utilize, not just in a war type campaign, but in dungeons and small encounters. Give the group of orcs a couple of these little creations, and watch your players, stumble and stagger around trying to figure out what's going on. Then the herbalism and the herbalism concoctions, more things that not just the alchemist but other people, your witches and druids and people who just live out by themselves and have to live off the land. These recipes that can help them out to get them to the next phase of the campaign or the next step along the journey, or a tool or a skill that every so often they can restock these couple of ingredients and remake this new concoction and have it serve them along the way. All in all, it's a really fun book for just about any campaign and any game style other than Arduin. You could easily convert a couple of numbers and incorporate them into just about any game I can think of, from fantasy to science fiction. There's easily some ideas that you can pull out of here for spicing up your game. And if you're already playing Arduin, absolutely a must-have in your collection. I really enjoyed reading this book, and I hope you guys do too. And if you want to get a copy of this, you can hop on over to Emperor's Choice online and let them know that Shadow and Sun sent you. And while you're there, take a look at all the other cool things they got coming, and they've got ready to ship out to you guys. Don't mean to sound like a commercial, but we're huge fans of everything Arduin and all the people over at Emperor's Choice. They've really been nice to us, and they've been really nice to all our friends. And hopefully, they'll send me a discount code that I can send out to you guys. Hint, hint, George, if you're watching this, hook me up with a code, and I'll send some more people your way. But until next time, folks, I will be doing the Arduin Eternal book, and that's going to take me a bit of time to read it because it is another phone book size tome on my bookshelf, and it's going to take me a little while to get to it. So if I can't be back next Friday to hit you up with the first installment of that one, just bear with me because I've got a lot of reading to do, and I'm getting less and less time to do it with all the other things that are going on with the channel and real life. You know how it goes, folks. But that's what we got for you. Hopefully we'll see you guys all over tonight on Max's Legion of Myth chill stream tonight. It's supposed to be pretty spicy. And then you guys can see me over on Bruce Lombardo of Dick's Division's Pathfinder game Saturday. And then, of course, Sunday, the little guy and I will be hanging out with our good friend Connell, the Cigar DM, doing some world building and just some general, flapping of the gums and chatting about, life in general. But until then, folks, have a great weekend. Enjoy your summer. We love you guys, and we hope to hear from you real soon. Bye.